Hello neighbors, it's Akipataku29 and welcome to another episode on the channel. Today, we'll be taking a look at the Chogokin Phone Brava 7 from the series Keitai Chogokin 7, or as the English title goes, Keitai Investigator 7. And for those who don't know what the series is all about, Keitai Chogokin 7 is a Japanese series that aired in Japan back in the early 2000s. It stars a normal student named Anishima Keitai, who one day, while trying to run away from home, he came across a crime scene. He discovers a secret organization called Anchor. This organization is formed to fight cybercrime. Soon, he joins Anchor along with a few new friends and compatriots to fight cybercrimes that plague all over Japan. It was actually a surprisingly deep story with not only clever humor and creative ideas, but with great life morals, and seriously reminds the importance of a partnership, faith, and the importance of trusting one another. Of course, as an otaku, I stand alone, but if this show sounds like something that you would enjoy, I highly recommend you to watch at least one episode, because I personally feel this show is extremely underrated and it deserves more love and attention from around the world. Now that that's out of the way, let's talk about the figure itself. First, we'll start with the box. Now, the box, it looks, well, okay, I'm just gonna say this, it looks beautiful. The box has a nice futuristic look, and it really looks like I'm holding a piece of equipment made by Anchor. All around the box, it showcases what kind of poses you can get 7 into, and as well as all the other accessory it comes with. The promotional images at the back of the box showcase 7 really well, and I believe it can attract 1 or 2 people to buy this thing. But of course, like every other good thing in this world, there's always a bad thing. What do I mean? Well, the material they use for the box is actually kinda cheap, meaning that it can get damaged on the long run. Another thing that I wish they could have done something about is that I wish they could have gave it a more matte finish rather than the glossier finish, so it can finish the high-tech feeling look. So box art wise, I think I'm just gonna give it a B. Of course, it is not what the outside that counts, it is what the inside that counts, so let's get to it. Besides 7 himself, we also got a few other things. For instance, we got this box, which I'm sorry to say, but I forgot what this thing is called, but basically what this thing is a power bank in the show. And we also got an instruction manual. First of all, we'll talk about the aesthetics of the figure, and for starters, we'll talk about the mobile phone first. Now, the aesthetic wise, well, not only does it look good, it feels good as well. Believe me, the whole figure is covered in a beautiful looking silver paint apps, and I cannot express how shiny it is. However, this beautiful looking silver paint apps does have a downside. With the repeated transformation and the rough playing and posing, a lot of the paint has been scraping off, and I'm really disheartened by this. So if you're gonna get this thing, please take a good care of it. But though there's another good thing about this figure. This figure captures every little detail that a real cell phone would have, such as the little screen where you receive messages from, the camera, the speaker, even the SD card is still there. This kind of attention to detail I really like, and I highly appreciate it. Even the keys on the phone looks like legit buttons, what from the Yahoo logo, the sending message button, the receiving button, and a few other keys as well. So aesthetic wise, because of the tiny details put into this thing, I would have given it A+. However, because the paint scripting issue is a big deal breaker for me, unfortunately I have to give it an A-. Now that we got the aesthetics out of the way, time to talk about the quality of this figure. The quality on this figure is one of the things that this figure does right. For instance, the hinge joint on the phone feels really smooth yet satisfying to do, as if this is an actual phone that you could use. Other things that I can talk about the quality of is that the buttons on the figure looks like legit buttons, however they are not actual real buttons. This people complain about, including me at one point. However, from what I can tell, Bandai is actually making this as the replica of the prop they use in the show, not as an actual one-to-one recreation of the character itself. And from what I can tell, yep, the non-pushable buttons is indeed accurate to the prop as well. Another good quality I can say about this figure is that how much die cast I can put into this thing. The die cast concentration makes it feel like a high-tech machine rather than an actual toy. However, most of the die-cast pieces are hidden in mobile form, but exposed in robot form, so I'll go over it once we get into robot mode. However, in the quality department, there are some problems. Well, for one that really annoyed me the most, is that every time I switch out the faceplate, more on that later, the screen scratches really easily, not just from the outside, but on the inside as well. This really bugs me, so if you're gonna get this figure, please be careful of that. So quality wise, I could theoretically forgive all the issues I have with it. Unfortunately, for a Chogokin figure and for the price point, I have to give it a B-. Now that we got the aesthetic and the quality out of the way, now let's go through the transformation. First, flip his legs out. Fold them out on the knee joint. Fold them forward. And rotate them on the thigh joint. For the feet, first you rotate the heels, extend them out, push them upwards to fold out the toes. For the arms, first remove the transformation hands. Fold them out. And bring this whole panel up. If you want to make sure your panel has fully folded up, all you need to do is to hear this clicking sound. Flip out 7's face. Fold out the arms on the elbow joint. And rotate them around. To complete the transformation, all you need to do now is get a pair of fists or any other hands and plug them in. Transformation wise, from what I can tell, is extremely accurate to show, not to mention the transformation is almost smooth, and for that I'm giving it an A+. Let's start off once again with the aesthetics, but this time in robot mode, or active form as they call it in the show. The aesthetic wise on 7 looks extremely accurate to the TV show. It feels like as if 7 just popped out of the screen and jumped into my hands, that's all I can say. Once again, this robot mode is glorified with the beautiful silver painting despite of the paint chips, and it looks really good for the most part, and it has a little camera behind here. So aesthetic wise for the active form, I'm giving it an A. Now it's time to talk about the quality on this figure. Now the quality is actually quite the roller coaster ride. There's so many things they did right, yet again there's so many things they did wrong. Let's start off the good. For starters, like I said earlier, there's so many die-cast parts on this figure, and all the die-cast pieces are now exposed in the robot mode. The places that are in die-cast metal include his body, as well as this whole panel piece at the back. The concentration on the die-cast on this thing makes him feel really heavy and like a high-tech equipment, just like in the show. However, there is a bad side about the quality. In my years of collecting, I noticed a lot of the Chogokin figures always have at least one loose joint in the articulation. Unfortunately, this figure is no exception. The loose joint in this figure is the legs. Watch. When I buy this thing, I always knew there's gonna be some loose joint in this figure. However, because now that the loose joint is on the legs and not anywhere else, posing this figure is gonna be a real chore. Quality wise on this thing, while some things are made perfectly fine on this thing, others are seriously letting down, especially with once again the price point, such as the loose articulation. So for that, I think I'll just give it a C+. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, now it's time to talk about the articulation. Now, the shoulder joint is on a ball joint. He has a bicep swivel. His elbows is double jointed. And his wrist is on a ball joint. For the legs, his hips is on a universal joint. He has a thigh swivel. He has a double jointed knee. His heels can move side to side. His toes can move up and down and pivot. Articulation wise, I'm giving it a solid A. For the accessories, he comes with this big box, which I'm sorry, but I forgot what this thing is called. We'll just call it a power bank for now, because that's literally what it is in the show. The power bank, not only does it look good, it feels good in hand. It feels like I'm actually holding a high-tech equipment, what from the rubber stoppers, the fake screws, to even the labeling on the charger is real. One of my favorite features on the power bank is the label on the charger is a legit label that you can find on actual chargers. Which, yes, it means if you rough and handle this thing too much, it will get destroyed over time, so please take care of it. Which, by the way, right now I'm still learning my Japanese. However, the writings on the label roughly translates to tell you that this charger is specifically made for Seven himself and not for anything else. So don't try charging things with this. But the best thing about the power bank is actually a containment box to store all of Seven's accessories. Now this is a stroke of genius. As a side note, this thing requires 4 AAA batteries to function. The box is divided into 4 parts. The first part is where you put your AAA batteries. The second part is where you put your extra hands. The third part is where you put your extra faces. And the last part is actually a small containment box where you can fold up your charger and put it in there in case you don't want your charger to dangle around as you transport this thing. However, I do not use this very often, otherwise it could potentially destroy the label. For extra hands, first we got a pair of linked fists, which, by the way, if you're curious what are these for, is basically to link both the arms together, so when Seven is in mobile form, the arms will not jiggle here and there. In addition to that, we got a pair of karate chop hands, a pair of fists, a pair of pointing hands, a pair of open hands. Lastly, we got 2 pairs of transformation hands, but the difference this time is that they are not linked. As a side note, the difference between the normal fist and the transformation fist is that the transformation fist has a pair of hinge on the fingers, which is, to be honest, kind of useless, honestly. For the extra faces, first we got the default blank face, a sleeping face, a crying face, a raging face, an irritated face, a happy face, a speechless face, and finally the face. If you put Seven with this face and bring in the open hands, you can now recreate him doing the pose. Of course, this thing requires 4 AAA batteries for a reason. That is because Seven himself has over 20 dialogues you can activate that is taken straight out of the show. Now that's actually a nice gimmick. But though there is just one part of me wishes that they could have put the batteries on Seven himself instead of just taking the power bank and plugging him all the time in order to activate the voice clips, but still, I highly appreciate it. And of course, if you're curious, yes, there will be translated subtitles, but keep in mind that they will not be 100% accurate because, like I said earlier, I'm still learning my Japanese, so bear with me. First, flip the phone down for a dramatic effect. Take your fingernails and hook it on this tiny little slot right here to pull out this rubber piece. Take in the power bank. Bring in Seven. And carefully plug the charger in. All you need to do now is to flip the switch and be amazed. Accessory wise, I'm giving it an A. So overall, should you get this thing? Well, despite its flaws, yeah, maybe I could consider you getting it, especially if you are one of the few people who grew up on the show. I for one did. Of course, just based on this, I was hoping that Bandai will release other characters from the show, like maybe 01, Second, Gene, and hell, maybe even the next. But seeing how this thing is made literally, well, 10 years ago, I highly doubt they'll be doing it, which is a shame honestly. This figure has potential to make a whole new line of Chogokin figures based on this, well, TV series. So if this is truly the only figure we'll see in this line, then that's okay I guess. So overall, I'm giving this figure a normal A-. And yet again, thank you guys so much for watching. Every view counts to me in my personal opinion. And if you do really like what I'm doing, please like and subscribe so you can follow my future reviews in the future. And if there's anything I can improve on, please let me know in the comments below. But until then, see you guys in the next video, and remember, tell your world.